Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel. I want to do a video looking at some online tourney results because Charizard is actually starting to make a comeback now in the format, which is honestly kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, Charizard is starting to make a comeback as I think we've now found the optimal way to play Charizard. And I wanted to look at the online tourney results and kind of see what decks are doing well right now. I mean, we do have the little regionals this weekend, so we do have a tournament happening this weekend. While the meta is definitely very much this, kind of similar, the Charizard deck is really interesting. And seeing Charizard start to perform really well now that a new version of it has popped up is actually really exciting and is kind of giving me hope that Charizard may now be figured out. And I think it's time to take a look here at these new Charizard deck lists. So starting things off, we have the free Deck Out Thursday tournament where Charizard ended up winning the tournament. I mean, Charizard winning is insane. And the idea behind this Charizard is that we now have this Charizard Gallade deck to thank for the new way to play Charizard. So the idea behind the Charizard Gallade deck is that you kind of just play the Charizard with the Curlia Gallade engine. This is a very similar list that what got top 8 at the Champions League in Yokohama. And now we are seeing the deck start to do well in online tourneys. It won a tournament, which is pretty impressive. Charizard hasn't won an online tournament in quite some time, and it has now re-won a tournament now that we found this new Gallade build. The nice thing about this build is that you're not relying on other two-prizers like Pidgeot in Arceus, you're more or less just relying on the Charizard and the Mew engine. So the only attacker in the deck is really the Charizard. There is the option, though, to use Gallade with Reversal Energy, which actually gives you a pretty good backup attacker. Gallade does a nice clean 160 damage. You can also use it to move the energy around. It's also a pretty bulky one-prizer and actually can help in a few different matchups. It does have 106 HP, so against like other single-prize decks, Gallade could be pretty good. The Mew engine is really good too, alongside the Jet Energy. The idea behind the Mew is that obviously Mew helps you find Battle VIP to get basics down, helps you find a rare candy Charizard pieces, but it also allows you to use it with Jet Energy. So basically, with Jet Energy, you can Jet Energy to your Mew, send the Mew into the active spot, use its ability, set you up more, and then go back into the Charizard. So Jet Energy Mew seems to be a very strong combo, and I think it's one of the best parts about this deck is being able to abuse the Mew Jet Energy combo. The Curly engine is just nice because it allows you to build a big hand instead of relying on Arceus and Pidgeot, which are pretty weak to cards like Path to the Peak. We now have the ability to rely on, Curlia to build up a big hand instead, and you're not using other two-prize liabilities, meaning the only main two-prize you're using is that Charizard EX, which of course can do big damage the more prizes your opponent takes. And being able to build up a big hand is good. The idea behind the Gallade with its ability Buddy Catch also lets you get any supporter card out of your deck, which is also really good because Gallade will allow you to kind of act as a pseudo Pidgeot. A lot of the time when you're playing Pidgeot, you're getting supporter cards. I mean, obviously you're going to use it to get like other rare candies, but for the most part, you're using Pidgeot to get supporters, where Gallade and Curlia can kind of do all in one, where Curlia can help find you, rare candy Zard alongside the Mew, and Gallade gets you a supporter, much like you would do with Pidgeot. So to see this deck win is pretty exciting, and it looks like Charizard is now to be respected. And in fact, the second place deck was the double Turbo Mew deck, which does play 3 paths, so it did have a decent out to pathing Charizard, but when Charizard can set up a bunch of Curlias, it's not too hard for Charizard, to find all the pieces they need to get out of the stadium lock with Path to Peak with Mew, and then they're able to get, the Charizard online. This Mew build would be better against Charizard. It does play 3 Judge and 3 Path, so it does have a better chance at, like, bricking Charizard even harder. But again, when you have the Curly engine, you can just use Curlia Gallade to find supporter cards and get out of these path locks to find Rare Candy Charizard, which makes this a really interesting build at Charizard, because the old build at Charizard obviously would have been a lot weaker to, Judge Path, right? The Pidgeot Arc build very much would lose to Judge Path, but this build doesn't lose to Judge Path that easily, which is what I like. Even though it only plays 2 Stadium and a Vacuum, because you have so much draw, you're not worrying about Path because you can draw out a Path. We do see Miraidon start to do well, the Jesse Parker Miraidon deck. It looks like Miraidon is starting to slowly take over the format here. We see 2 different builds, both of which are very similar to Jesse's build. This one does play the more path-heavy build and playing at the Zero Aura. I think the logic behind the Pikachu is that Pikachu is a free retreater that can use Force Seal Stone, and it also isn't bad against Lost Box, because against Lost Box, it's a pretty good escape rope target, where it doesn't give up a prize. Like, if your opponent plays an escape rope, they spit your Pikachu, it's fine, because it can sponge a hit, and of course, you do have that panic button with, Thunder Shock or Fly if you really have to. We do have 3 Lost Box in top 8, too. And that's the thing that interests me about the Charizard build is the Gallade Charizard deck seems like it might be a bit worse into Lost Box because you do have more 80 HP Pokemon, but at the same time, you don't have all those 2 prize liabilities. So you do lose, a lot of your bulk with the Gallade Charizard deck, but interesting enough, we're not seeing any Lost Tina here in top 8. We're just seeing the turbo build. 3 turbo builds looks like in top 8 here. We do see the one of Kyogre deck. It looks like a similar list to Andrew's build, except there's a few cuts, I guess. But it is obviously the Kyogre, which Kyogre, I think, probably... I mean, the nice thing about the Gallade build, it probably beats Kyogre because Charizard can't be damaged by Kyogre due to his Trustful effect. And because you're not playing other big, bulky two-prizers like Pidgeot and Arceus, you don't have to worry about Kyogre knocking out other two-prizers that aren't Charizard. So maybe the Charizard Gallade build has a better matchup into a Kyogre, which is interesting. We see the Shampoo doing well. This is not the Lucas top 8 Shampoo build, but it is still Shampoo with Arceus. It does have a few different changes. Arceus and Shampoo isn't terrible at all. It can go either way. But yeah, seeing Charizard take down the turn is insane. We do have another tournament here where it looks like Charizard won again. We do have the Pokédex tournament here, which, of course, the first place list was Charizard. Now, this Charizard is very much like the Charizard Gallade build we looked at, but it is a bit different. There are a few other things going on. We see a Charmeleon in the deck. We see an Entei V and a Force Seal Stone. We also see two different Gallade Guardy engines. We see the Gardevoir Shine Arcana and the Buddy Catch Gallade. So this build is a little bit different than the last build we just looked at, but it is still the same thing where it's using the Gardevoir Kirlia Gallade engine alongside the Mew to set you up. So pretty similar build, except with a few different differences. Not as kind of going the same approach where we see the Charizard with the... just no other two-prizers. So the Entei edition is interesting. I'm not sure the Entei is super necessary within the deck, but this deck did win a tournament. So that is 2 tournaments now we've looked at where Charizard has won back-to-back. So Charizard winning tournaments now is pretty impressive. So we're seeing this Gallade build start to do good. And of course, in second place, we see another Fusion Mew. Actually, a very similar build to the build that actually got second in that last tournament we just looked at using the Path Judge. But again, when you have the Gallade Kirlia engine, Path Judge doesn't really bother Charizard as much because you can still draw a ton of cards up under Path the Peak, which is the problem that the other builds of Charizard were not able to do. So that's, I think, the big thing with the Gallade build of Charizard is that it's, we're finding ways to get around Path. We see Gardevoir doing pretty well. I feel like Gardevoir, this build would probably lose to the Gallade Charizard build because that build can attack with Gallade, and of course Charizard is a bit of an issue for Gardevoir, right? Because it allows them to be able to just kind of KO the Gardevoirs. So Charizard would still be a scary matchup for Gardevoir regardless. Even though Guardy can still one-shot the Charizards, when they get Charizard off really quickly, and it can go south pretty quickly. We got Miraidon in top 4. It looks like it's pretty similar to Jesse's list, except there is no path. There's actually a Stormy Mountains, and there's a Zeraora over the Flying Pikachu. We see 2 more Charizard in top 8, so Charizard's starting to dominate. Now, this build is a little bit like the other build that won that online tourney, but this one does play the Entei again. I mean, Entei, Radiant Charizard, I think would both probably be fine additions. This build does actually play a 3-3 Charmander line alongside the Kirlias and the 4 Kirlia, 4 Ralts, 2 Gallade. It still has that reversal energy, does have the Gen energies, the Mew in the deck, the Force Heal. I guess that's the benefit of playing Entei. You do get access to Force Heal Stone. So I guess I don't hate it. It's probably not the worst attacker you could play in the deck. I wonder if there's any other V Pokemon that you could play in this deck apart from Entei. I think Entei would probably be the best one. I mean, I guess it does apply some early game pressure. You can go Entei, Charizard, Charizard to win a game as opposed to Charizard, Charizard, Charizard. So I guess Entei makes sense in a world. But yeah, and then we see another Charizard on top 8, and yet another Charizard on top 8. Once again, another Gallade Charizard deck. As you can see, Charizard Arceus Pidgeot is gone. It is not seeing play. We are just seeing this Charizard Gallade deck dominate. 3 of this deck in top 8. In 2 tournaments back-to-back, Charizard has won. So yeah, Charizard Gallade really starting to make a name for himself. I'm actually going to be curious to see if this deck is going to start doing well in the little regionals. We see another Miraidon deck in top 8 with the 4-path build of Miraidon. So that's interesting. And then, once again, another Charizard in top 8. Now, this one is Arc Pidgeot Charizard. So, that's crazy. Over half that top 8 was Charizard. The majority of it was obviously the new Gallade build, but we are still seeing this Arc Pidgeot Charizard deck holding around. I mean, this deck is obviously more weak to Path, and it does have more, 2-prize liabilities with the Pidgeot and the Arceus, but it still is a fine deck. Like, I'm not saying that this deck is completely dead or, terrible because people found a new way to play Charizard that's doing better. This deck is still obviously good, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like we're starting to see this Gallade build perform better because it's less weak to Path. You have less 2-prize liabilities in play because one of the benefits of Charizard is a very tanky attacker that can hit pretty hard. And that's kind of the benefit. When you have all these other 2-prize liabilities in play, you're losing more easily to boss. For the Gallade build, you're not as easily losing the boss. The benefit, I think, of the Pidgeot Arceus build is you probably have a better time into Lost Zone decks. And that's the benefit. We got the full heal tournament here. No Charizard winning this time. We do see Miraidon winning the Miraidon build, playing a Temple of Sinnoh, interestingly enough, probably for the Lugia matchup, which I guess would help against Tyranitar, make it a bit harder for them to beat you, even though your Lugia matchup's already fine. We're finally seeing some Lost Tina do well. This is the one thing with the Gallade build of Charizard is I don't know if Gallade Charizard is going to beat Lost Tina. That's like the only thing that's sketching me out about the Charizard Gallade deck is how is it still beating Lost Tina? Like, I feel like the Gallade build kind of figures out some awkward scenarios like Path and stuff, but I still feel like that deck is still probably losing to Lost Tina, right? But I guess you can attack with Gallade in that matchup with Reversal Energy, and you can make it really awkward, actually, for the Giratina, because Giratina doesn't want to Lost Impact or Star Requiem a Gallade, right? So maybe that's kind of the way to go about it, is you try to use Gallade in the matchup. And Lost Tina's not getting to Sableye as quickly. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the Gallade build is a better Lost Tina matchup. I'm actually very curious on that. We do see two Lost Tinas in top 4 here, both of which are different. One build plays Snorlax, the other playing the Shaman, which honestly, I think at this point, putting Shaman back in Lost Tina makes sense because the Charizard Gallade deck is so popular. And that build, other than, if you're going to run into the Entei build we were seeing, I don't know if that build would be able to handle the Shaman as easily. So because Gallade can't one-shot Shaman. I guess if you're playing a Belt, it can. Another Miraidon in top 4. Another Jesse Parker-ish build without the path, just playing the double beach court. We see a Lost Box here in top 8. It is the, it looks like it is, we see the, Andrew Estrada Lost Box Kyogre deck. Again, Kyogre really good right now. With all the Miraidon we're seeing, too, in these online tourneys, I wouldn't be surprised if we just keep seeing Kyogre make top 8, because it's just that good of a deck. We got another Charizard in top 8, and this one, once again, is the Gallade at Charizard. So Gallade Charizard really starting to push Charizard up the map. I mean, because, again, when Charizard first came out, right, it was kind of like, it was cool. Everyone was playing it because it was the new hype thing. And then once people realized it was kind of mid, it had a lot of weaknesses, fell off. But now we're starting to see multiple of the Charizard deck in top 8 and winning tourneys again. So Charizard is really starting to make a rebound in the format. Now, this could be hype because people are trying out this new different version of Charizard. But with the amount of success it's having, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually just a good way to play Charizard and not just kind of a thing people are playing because they're trying out a new hype archetype, right? That, to me, feels like maybe what this is. We got more Guardian top 8, double reversal build. Similar Tord build, obviously. And then, of course, we got another Lost Zone deck. This one is, of course, not playing the Kyogre, cutting the Kyogre, but having stuff like Drapion in the deck seems fine to me. And the next tournament here, we got the late night tourney. Now, this late night tourney did not have the new Charizard in top 8. I did still want to look at it because it is the largest tournament. The winning deck was Rapid Strike Urshifu. And that's another thing, I guess, with the Gallade build is, does the Gallade build of Charizard have a good matchup against Rapid Strike? That's another thing that kind of keeps me questioning is, while the Gallade build is cool, can it beat Rapid Strike? I guess you do have Gallade, which can hit Urshifu for weakness, but Urshifu has 330 HP. Gallade only does 320 to Urshifu. So, I don't know, like, that makes me wonder if the Charizard Gallade deck can beat Rapid Strike, even with the addition of Gallade. Like, I feel like if you're going to play the deck, maybe you do need, like, a damage mod. The second place deck was the Lost Tina deck, which, of course, Lost Tina just being good. I mean, I don't really need to probably skim over too many of these decks because we've already kind of seen most of them. We do see the Andrew Estrada deck get top 4 in this late night tourney by Cal, actually. We see the Guardy deck in top 4 once again. Again, the same old stuff. It's just exciting to see a new version of Charizard do well. That was the main reason I wanted to do this video. Because, like, all these decks, like, we've all seen them before. We've seen the Mews. We've seen the thing. Actually, we see a Silene go back in a Mew. That's an interesting card. And Catchers. Oh, it's a Catcher Mew deck, actually. I didn't even see that. I thought they just had the Silene. But, yeah, no, it has Catcher and Silene. I mean, hey, Catcher can sometimes win games, right? You flip heads, bro, you're winning. And the deck did get top 8. We got more Xianpao doing well. This one with the 1/1 Palkia. Not playing any Bibarel, which is pretty ballsy for sure. But it does have extra draw with Research and Iono, so I guess it doesn't worry about it as much. We do see the Rapid Strike Inteleon deck get top 8 again. Yeah, Rapid Strike's just pretty good right now, don't get me wrong. And I'm curious to see if Rapid Strike has that good Charizard Gallade matchup. I'm curious on that. We do see a oh my god. Okay, there was some spice in top 8. Look at that. We see a Miraidon with a 1/1 Jolteon. So Jolteon, I guess, is kind of like a pseudo Zapdos EX. Zapdos EX can do 120 the active and then 90 to a bench Pokemon damage on it, where Jolteon can do 100/100. So kind of a similar thing. It doesn't do as much damage as Zapdos, but it's still kind of doing something similar. That's interesting. Jolteon in Miraidon. In a close deckless tournament, this could actually be decent because right now, nobody benches Manaphy against Miraidon. The problem is, in an open deckless tournament, you're going to see the Jolteon, and you're immediately going to bench Manaphy against Miraidon. So I would feel like this is a better ladder deck because nobody knows that you have Jolteon until it's too late, right? Because right now, nobody's benching Manaphy against Miraidon because nobody plays Magnezone. In an open deckless tourney, that's a bit riskier. It did get top 8, though, so I don't know, man. Maybe there's something to it. Then we see another Lost Zone deck in top 8. It is Zamazenta Kyogre. I do like this deck. This deck is pretty strong, and the one prize option, the one prize box option is still pretty good. Apart, not having Dragonite or Raikou can be a hindrance, but Zamazenta is still a very strong attacker, especially against, oh my god, it was 4 Knights list. Especially against Shampoo and Miraidon, it's pretty good. I'm outside the top 8, just a lot of Lost Box and stuff. There is a Lost Zone Charizard that did decent. Okay, it was Sableye Cramsard. But Spiritomb Path. See, because originally Sableye Cramsard did play Path back in the day when it did well. I think Tord won Peoria with it, right? But now we're kind of, nowadays nobody really plays Path in Sableye Lost Box. But Sableye with Path isn't terrible in the Charizard build, especially if you're playing the Heavy Vacuum. I really like this list. I do like this list. Path is a very strong card, and I mean, they did go 8-5-1. Kind of looking at their matchup spread here. They did lose to Lost Tina, which is kind of insane, actually. Lost to Gar. I feel like, apart from maybe the Lost Box deck, I'm surprised they did lose to those decks. But it is an interesting build. I like the idea of Path in Sableye Cramsard because it's something that worked before back in the day, and who's to say it can't work again. But yeah, I think that'll be it for the video here. Again, a bit of a brief video, but I did want to kind of take a look at these Charizard lists here and kind of say that, hey, Charizard is winning tournaments again, meaning that Charizard might actually start seeing more play because the Arpeggio Charizard build, a lot of people were saying just wasn't the greatest, but now that we're seeing this Charizard Gallade deck do well, I don't know, man. Charizard might start going up in stocks. And with 151 on the horizon, who knows where this Charizard Gallade deck can go with the new set release. I'm excited for it. If y'all enjoyed today's video here, make sure to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're getting close to 8,000 subs. If you haven't subbed already, make sure to subscribe down below. And yeah, that'll be for me. I'll leave a link to Play.Limitless down below. And if you want to try out some of these decks, you can. I'll leave a link to Play.Limitless so that you can maybe go check them out and copy the deck list into TCG Live and play the Charizard Gallade deck yourself and get a feel for the deck. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.